welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. This is Nigel. Say hi. Drama King Nigel. Welcome to an episode of Book CommuniTEA, where I try to keep you abreast of some of the goings on in the bookish community. Today, not my plushie. Come here, little jerk. Okay. So today's episode is really just it's really petty discourse that's been going on Twitter. Some really I would call them hot takes, but they're really lukewarm takes. But a lot of it surrounding authors and readers. It's very odd. But there was one thing and I was like, ah. And then there was another thing and I was like, ah. And then I was like, oh my goodness, what is in the author water right now? So I just felt like talking about it. Maybe y'all have a different opinion than I do, or the majority does, maybe you don't. Honestly, it's laughable. I thought maybe if you haven't been on Twitter, you got back on and you're seeing things about why DNF and rating books, or general talk about are authors okay? Here's an update. So firstly, what happened a few weeks ago, if you were on Twitter and you saw people talking about a kidney and bad art print and were confused as I was for a while until I found the article, which the articles will be linked down below. This one I'm not gonna go into too much because Alexa Dunn, video will be linked down below, did a great video on this because it's a mess. Look, say hi. Say hi. Okay, not sure where this is entering because this video has been filmed over different days. So I originally said that I wasn't gonna go too much into bad art friend because Alexa has a video, and she does still, it's linked down below. But I know someone emailed me to ask me to explain it. So I'm gonna try to do a TLDR version a little better than I mentioned previously. So this was again at the beginning of October, and there was a piece in the New York Times and it was called "Who is the Bad Art Friend?" And information I found out after reading this article was that one of the people involved in this situation was the person who pitched it to the New York Times, which I find extra weird. But essentially there are two people in this story. I'm just gonna go by their last names, two women, Dorland and Larson. And Dorland is the person who pitched this story to the New York Times, and she donated a kidney. And then she wrote a letter to the person who received her kidney. And she had I don't know if it was a Facebook group. So she made a private Facebook group to share about her donor giving experience, kidney donating experience. And, invited certain people to it. Most people reacted to her posts and stuff oh, that's great. Oh my God, the letter's so sweet. Except one person, Larson. And then at some point later when they were talking, she mentioned oh yeah, I donated a kidney. Basically you didn't react to my Facebook post. And Larson was oh yeah, that's so great. And Dorland was kind of in her feelings because she donated this kidney and she wanted everyone to tell her how great she was, essentially. I'm not trying to knock her. Donating a kidney is an amazing thing. And I had someone tell me that when you do participate in organ donation, they do want you to really talk about it and spread awareness. So, reduce any kind of fears or stigma. So I totally get that, to try to encourage other people by sharing your experience and how positive it was and life-changing and what all those things I assume it was. But framed in the article, it just looks like she really, really, really wanted attention more so personally than just about kidney donation. That's just me. So anyway, they have become embroiled in this legal battle. I'm not sure if it's done yet, but Dorland, like I said, wrote a letter to the person who received her kidney. It was in the private Facebook group. And so Larson wrote a short piece, I think, and it basically plagiarizes Dorland's post because her story also involves someone donating a kidney, and she took parts of her letter. And I think some of the questions that are coming up also if it's on Facebook, is that technically copyright infringement? That's not really the point here. But also in this process of, taking legal action against Larson because she has plagiarized part of the letter that Dorland wrote to the person who got her kidney, all these group messages basically were revealed, which show that people were talking about Dorland good grief, can she get over it? I'm done hearing her talk about it, but then also looks bad for Larson because in these group messages, she says, I think I'm done with the kidney story, but I feel nervous about sending it out because it literally has sentences that I verbatim grabbed from Dawn's letter on Facebook. I've tried to change it, but I can't seem to. That letter was just too damn good. So because before these things were revealed, she was saying, I didn't plagiarize that. Like, sure, he might have gave me an idea. It's what inspired my story, but I didn't take anything directly from her. And then it comes out that she literally did. Like, she was like, wow, this letter is so good. I'm going to use it in my story. So that is the gist of the Bad Art Friend. They were in like the same circle because they're both writers. Dorland donated a kidney, made a private Facebook group and talked about her experience, shared the letter she wrote to the recipient, and most people were like, oh, great job, except this one person kind of didn't respond. And then she found out that the person who didn't respond also wrote a story based on her kidney donating experience. So then she also was like, that's weird that you took a real life experience and you wrote a story about it and you didn't ask me or you didn't tell me about it beforehand. And then also that she literally took lines and words directly from Dorland's letter from Facebook, and it's obviously admitted to in these group messages. So I hope that made sense. The question to who is the Bad Art Friend, both of them. There also is the author Celeste Ng, who wrote Little Fires Everywhere, is a friend of Larson. And so she tweeted when this story came out, and said, it is a mess. Obviously I'm biased here, but I am deeply relieved people seem to be seeing this. She pitched this piece to the New York Times reporter, and I honestly don't understand why. He reported the truth, and it does not make her look good. She later said, I'm getting sick of clarifying the same thing, so Dawn pitched this article to the New York Times herself. She was not part of our writing group or friend group. I met her once. Most of us didn't know her well, if at all. I never heard anyone mention her name before this. So yikes. People had opinions on Twitter like, would you take Bad Art Friend or Kidney Lady? I feel like a lot of people were taking Bad Art Friend over Kidney Lady, and I also am team Larson over team Kidney Lady, who is Dorland, because she's too much, but also Larson, shady as well. So that was the story. I hope that helped clarify it. Again, this article that I'm reading from, I'll link down below, and also watch Alexa's video. But wow, was that a few days on Twitter? A mess. On to the other things that have been coming up, because those weren't like, not like any of these are known authors, but those were just two writers, and that was an opinion piece written. I don't know if it was the New Yorker or the New York Times. But then the next thing I saw come up was someone shared an article about like, it's bad to DNF books essentially. If you don't know, DNF stands for did not finish, and a lot of people will read books, and if they're not into it, depends on the writing style, the content. Some people have like, I give the book 20%, 30% before I give up on it. Whatever reason, you're not enjoying a book, you don't want to read it. We often DNF, did not finish, don't care to go back to it. I do it often, I encourage people to do it, but this piece is like, that's a terrible idea. So it is in the Independent, and the quote says, it's an insult to authors not to finish each and every book you start, is how the article starts. So the person who wrote this, Rupert, said that earlier in the week, the novelist Mark Billingham caused a minor stir when he suggested that readers should throw a book across the room angrily if it hasn't gripped them in the first 20 pages. And he said, life's too short. There are so many great books out there. Excellent point. I'm not going to necessarily throw the book, especially if it's a really nice copy. But if it's like a cheap paperback and it's pissing me off, I have thrown a few books. Not a lot, but I definitely will set a book down. I've read the first page, been like, nah. I've read 20 pages and been like, nah. Whenever you feel that, you should not feel guilty to put down a book. But he continues that. So he says, reading is for the most part a private pursuit. It's unlikely many of us would seriously change our habits based on the advice of others. Whatever works for you, I suppose. Still, I have found the discussion this week dispiriting and, dare I say it, a bit childish. The idea that we read simply to be entertained as an easy form of escapism seems to underpin all the arguments for giving up on a book. I couldn't get into it. It didn't grip me. Too slow. But entertainment surely isn't the only reason why people read. or indeed why authors write. A lot of people just read for entertainment, and that's fine. Reading should challenge and confound us. It should take us into the minds and lives of those we don't like or find hard to understand. This may not always be gripping, but it is often rewarding. Is it? We owe it to writers to give them a full hearing before passing judgment. And finishing a book is the only way to do this. To give an author just 20 pages of your time is insulting. Bitch, please do not tell me what to do with my time. It is limited. Then he talks about the protagonist of this novel, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, for example, is self-obsessed, indulgent, and cruel. Reading about her can be infuriating and tedious, but then again, so is the life she leads. That is the point, of course, and it allows us to experience her eventual transformation together. 20 pages in, I could sympathize with the urge to throw the novel across the room angrily, but I'm glad I didn't. Every reader will have a similar story. And that's fine if you push through, but other people might be like, nah, this is not gonna be for me. So he talks about a book that he tried to read. He said, even to the final page, and never got anywhere. Was that a waste of my time? Possibly, but you'll never know unless you persevere. For every one of these books, there are countless others that blossom late on and reward the effort. I'm happy to take my chances. In a recent interview, Lee Child, author of the Unputdownable Jack Reacher series, was asked which book he had never been able to finish. None, he replied. I've finished every book I've started. You can learn plenty from bad or difficult books. I think that's the end of the article. It just goes blank on my phone. I don't know if it's like just not loading, but that's all I can see. But essentially people have been talking about that on Twitter because we support DNFing here. Now, of course, somebody, may be offended if you DNF their favorite book or, highly acclaimed read, but whatever. Life is short, time is limited, people have other things they want to do. If they only want to read for entertainment, so be it. I'm happy they're reading. They want to read for entertainment and to learn something. Still, the way a book is presented or written has to appeal to me for me to continue reading, even if it's not just for entertainment. So there's not all nonfiction works for everyone and not all fiction. So anyway, hot garbage. Don't listen to Rupert. Rupert is just salty. If you don't feel a book in one page, DNF it. DNFing is self-care. We love to see it. I think Heather recently did a video on this. I'll link that down below. And yeah, you just shouldn't feel guilty. That does not make you less of a reader. It doesn't make you less of a reader if you only read for entertainment. And this just feels really like snobby and elitist. So it's like, if you want to suffer through a book, by all means, Rupert, have at it. But some of us got other things we want to read, and we're just gonna move on to the next one. Another just terrible take. It's like they all got together and they're like, okay, you take this week, and then I'm gonna take the second week of October, and then you take the third week of October. Speaking of the third week of October, we have this one was quote tweeted, so I don't know who did it originally, but it says, do you ever buy a book just to support an author? Even though you aren't interested in the book, I consider this the opposite of support, but recently I almost did it. I stopped myself though and reminded myself that I would not want it done to me. I almost did it. I stopped myself though. So you would rather someone just not buy your book, even if they don't intend on reading it? Maybe they like the cover and they just bought it. Doesn't that give money to you as an author? Or maybe they bought it and they don't intend reading it anytime soon because they have a million other books. Hello, relatable. That, I don't know which one of, you know what? At the end of this video, I would like y'all to vote on which take you thought was the worst. But that just seems so odd to me. Supporting an author, one, you can request it from your library if you don't want to buy it or you're not able to buy it. And then the library purchases the book. That supports the author. You're buying the book, showing the library that, people are interested in this book. Or if you did go buy the book and you don't read it immediately, that's still support. That's financial support. Like, just because you don't buy a book, read it immediately, write a review on every platform and hype it up doesn't mean you're not supporting the author. So I thought that was really weird. Lots of course, tweets about that one, but essentially what people with sense were like, no, this doesn't make any sense. Buy a book to support an author. If you don't read it, who cares? A lot of authors like, you mean my family? Like, because a lot of people's family will buy books to support them, but it doesn't mean necessarily that they're readers, that they're into that type of book, but they're like, I want to support you, so let me go to the bookstore on release day, bought your book, it's up here, I'm proud of you, doesn't mean I'm gonna read it. there is something in the author water, isn't there? But someone said, for the record, please feel free to buy my book for literally any reason. Literally, you would think people would be like, I don't care, just buy it. Pretty cover, a word on the synopsis grabs you, it would match your theme, whatever it is. If you buy my book, I am happy. I don't know who this person was, if they're a bigger author or a smaller independent author, but it just seemed weird. Like, who says, no, if you don't financially support me, I don't want it. Someone replied, I bought your book mostly to use as a cat flattening device and it's working great. Say hi. Tell them hello. Thank you. Elizabeth May said, oh, for God's sake, my bank account doesn't care if someone reads the book or not. Isn't that, not gonna say that's what truly matters. Obviously, people write because they want people to read it. Another good point was, hi all, buying books to support authors even if you won't read them isn't pity. Authors depend on pre-orders. They're used as a temperature check by publishers to see if it's worth throwing marketing at the book, whether they're considering buying the sequel. So support away. Just like there's been mentioned multiple times before, like, some people don't want to read a series until it's completed. Totally relatable. I've done that. Because, you don't want to read a book and then 10 years later you're still waiting for the sequel. But then authors have tweeted, sometimes doing that, the series doesn't always get completed if the publishers don't see enough interest in the first book. So maybe you don't plan to read them. You're like, oh yeah, it sounds interesting, but there's still 4 more books out. It still is helpful if you have the means, obviously, and you want to buy the book, even if you're like, I'm not going to read it right now, because that shows the publishers that people are interested, and then they're more likely to get the follow-up sequels, because there have unfortunately been instances where books have started and there wasn't enough I don't want to say hype. There wasn't enough interest in the book and they weren't able to be finished. So again, this is such a terrible take, because it's like, no, if you don't immediately plan to read it, but maybe it's interesting, you're not a bad person for buying it. Like, that sounds so dumb. That sounds so dumb to say, because it is, because this take, like, what? Terrible take number 3. And our 4th one for this video was tweeted just yesterday. And this person said, on behalf of all of us, please allow me to shout, do not subtract stars from your reviews over personal preferences. It is super lame. It's like someone disliking seafood but ordering shrimp and then rating it badly because they didn't realize shrimp was seafood. Please stop. A lot of very annoyed people who apparently write very subjective reviews crawling out of the woodwork almost a day later. Just a heads up, I don't argue on social media. I post hot takes a lot and I'm at peace with the consequences. Well, at least you realize that. So, love it. So, do not subtract stars from your reviews over personal preferences. But isn't all of reading very personal? Like, you read things normally because this is what you personally prefer. And I saw a quote tweet that, because I feel like there's an underlying message that they did not convey well at all. And so a lot of people are like, this is such a bad take, which the way it's written is. But I did see someone I follow on Twitter quote tweet it and explain maybe what they were going for. I'm not sure. Maybe they just really thought that they were doing something. But what Kate said, I feel like this take could have been worded a lot better. Like, obviously people shouldn't be reading middle grade or YA books according to adult standards, but if an otherwise excellent book contains racist language or doesn't handle a rape scene, well, obviously I'm gonna 1-star it. The fuck? Don't lower ratings for a book because you don't like the genre or age range, or you don't understand a non-Western writing convention used by a BIPOC author is a thing that is true, but this tweet did not articulate that message at all, which is very true. Obviously, reading is subjective. Everyone's personal experiences, personal preferences are going to affect how they read a book. We do not all read the same book, like it's the same words on the page, but we all interpret and experience it differently. And therefore, how you feel about it, whether you like it or not, what you star rate it if you rate books, is going to be different. And it is very valid, though, to mention that some people do lower books because they didn't get it if it was a different, culture, maybe, or it was too juvenile, if they're an adult and they're reading like middle grade or young adult. Those things are very valid. At the end of the day, you're reading, most people are reading as a hobby, and so whatever they rate it, they're going to rate it. This isn't like Kirkus reviews, but I still think that's an important conversation about maybe if you don't understand something, or maybe you went into a book written by a person from a different group and you feel like you didn't learn anything, even though it was a fiction book. But again, at the end of the day, you can't police reviews and tell people that they have to rate books a certain way. It is a hobby. Unless you're a professional reviewer, I don't know nothing about that life, because I am not a reviewer. I just kind of flap my gums and tell people how I felt about a book and what star rating I gave it. And does it always make sense? Probably not, but that's why it's unique. Everyone has a different take. I might say this book was amazing, I really loved it, but it was a little slow. I gave it 4 stars. And someone like, this book was kind of boring, but you know, I liked some of it, 4 stars. Like, it happens where people rate books the same as you, but they have very different experiences. And so just to say, on your personal preferences, do not lower a rating. Like, well, maybe I prefer character-focused stories and this story is more plot-focused, so yeah, I'm gonna lower the rating. Like, I hope that their intent was what Kate said, like, don't lower books because it's a different culture that you don't understand, or you're an adult and you're reading a middle grade and you feel like it's too young. Maybe don't do that, but again, at the end of the day, you can't control what people do. But just this blanket, don't lower star ratings based on your personal preferences, is just like, I don't think you understand how reading and rating works. I don't think you get it.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Just think people are very confused, or maybe it was just authors were bored and they were like, let's start some shit, let's get some discourse going on the timeline, and they all decided to act a fool. Who knows? I don't know. It's been very interesting to see the quote tweets and subtweets on the TL. I've been a chuckle because none of these like make me mad. They're just all like, here we go again, right? And some of them are laughably terrible, but I just thought I would touch on those really quickly if you've missed out from not being on Twitter, because it's just like, y'all, please. I really need y'all to like step back, go outside. Nigel, what should they do? Touch some grass. Yes, they should touch grass. I know, that's what I was gonna say. I'm like, chill out. And out of those 4, number 1, we have Bad Art Friend, the lady who donated kidney, got mad at her friend for not commenting on her Facebook post, but then that friend also technically plagiarized and used some of her letter in her work. Number 2, we have the article about you should finish every book you read. Number 3, we have that you buying an author's book is not supporting them, it's really just pitying them if you don't immediately mean to read it. And 4, that you should not lower ratings over personal preferences. So choose for 1, 2, 3, or 4, which one you think is the worst. You can rank them, you can tell me one, maybe they're all bad, maybe you don't think they're bad. I would love to know. So definitely let me know down in the comments. Now for a quick break to thank our sponsor, which is Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN or virtual private network. I've used them for 2 years, and my main motivation in getting a VPN was so that I could watch TV that I watched when I lived in America, because now I live abroad. But there's all kinds of benefits like security, protection for your device when you're on a public Wi-Fi network. There's many benefits to a VPN, and Surfshark is so great because it's so affordable. You can have one account and have unlimited devices on it, which is amazing. And since you're one of my amazing subscribers, if you use my code, which is just my last name, Owens, Owens, you can get 83% off and an extra 3 months for free. I know that doesn't sound real, but literally, if you use my code, Owens, you get 83% off and an extra 3 months for free. But anyway, thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and check out the link that's in my description and also pinned in the comments. I wanted to add to this video, I'm glad I waited and did a kind of October wrap up, because wow, were we treated at the end of October to some mess, child. Mess. So if you have missed it, if you haven't been on Twitter, although the people involved may have had some Instagram posts, but they were deleted really quickly, 6 popular YA authors came together for this writing project they called Realms of Ruin. Nigel does not want to be here because he's already heard a lot about it, but I need him to sit down. Sit down. Look, tell the people hello. Hey, look. Tell them hi. Okay. Realms of Ruin. The 6 authors involved are Tahira Mafi, Marie Lu, Ransom Riggs, Adam Silvera, David Yoon, and Nicola Yoon. I'm very sad about the last one. I haven't even read any of her books. Nicola Yoon just seems like a sweet person, but they were involved in this mess. And what is this mess, you ask? What is this mess? So their thing, this Realms of Ruin, essentially was a teen, because they are young adult authors, not like only teens read young adult, but teen NFT writing community. This article that I'm referencing says it went as well as you would think. So let's break this down. We have 6 popular young adult authors that have a big audience, a lot of them being teens or, you know, people under the age of 18, but also adults. And then NFT. What is an NFT? Oh my God, I will try my best to explain this to you because I've just been like, NFTs are along the same lines kind of as cryptocurrency. And when that comes up, I'm like, so it's like Cole's Cash?
Say this when a man tries to explain crypto.
But NFT stands for non-fungible token. Jessica, what does that mean? I still really don't understand, but essentially it's like a digital deed to something. So people have been using them to buy like tweets or a meme. Like, you don't physically own it, obviously, but if someone were to ask, you could be like, oh, I own that meme, and you have a digital deed to it, kind of. I still really don't get it. But they are a way of exchanging money, I think, like cryptocurrency, and they're really bad for the environment. I would keep hearing this and I was like, I'm so confused. If it's digital, how is it bad for the environment? Oh well, from what I've learned is that just like cryptocurrency, the way they are basically like verified is through blockchains. And so essentially computers are computing all these complicated puzzles and equations and things to verify that these are actual transactions or something, but they're always computing in order to make sure it's like legit. They just are continuously running equations, solving puzzles, doing all that computer brainy shit constantly, which is of course using electricity, which is obviously using energy and eventually emitting carbon into the environment, which isn't good for the environment. And I never thought about this because I was like, well, if that's bad, is it me using my computer bad? Like me gaming on my computer bad? And the person who was explaining it to me, shout out to Steven, I doubt he's watching this, but was talking about massive data centers like in America, like Facebook headquarters or Amazon, where they're running all these servers all of the time. And I literally never thought of that. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, it's Amazon's office. For some reason, I thought of Amazon's office as like NASA. They just like were all on their little computers. But I just never really thought about the electricity use, or literally like the power that you need to use computers, and didn't think about it having to run all of the time. And so just like a big massive data center like that is using a lot of energy, emitting a lot of carbon emissions, blockchains do that as well because they have to keep going. That's the way to, like, I think, authenticate the interactions, the transactions. Look, if you're a tech bro, don't come for me. I am like -19 on the understanding scale of this. This is like my basic ass understanding. But essentially the computers are always running, so they're generating and a lot of electricity, so they're using a lot of electricity, emitting carbon, and that's why cryptocurrency and NFTs are not good for the environment. And so I still don't really understand how this involves books, but essentially with this, they came together to make this project where they invite their fans to write essentially fan fiction. So this world doesn't really exist yet. Like, they set up the basic parameters, which is the Realm of Ruin starts with an origin story, 5 realms, 42 characters, and 12 initial stories. Anyone can write a story in this universe and mint it into an NFT they own. The authors will promote and reward the best stories. A collectible A collectible NFT character set will be sold at launch to fund the project. So a lot of tweets on Twitter were talking about how this sounds like an MLM, which is a multi-level marketing company, aka usually a pyramid scheme, because you have to buy into it. Because essentially, to be a part of this, to write a story for Realms of Ruin, you have to buy an NFT to get in. But then if your story is chosen, I guess you could kind of make money. But then people were asking about like the copyright, because really it's these authors that own it. So what if they took all these stories and made it into, you know, like, they made it into a story or whatever, and they sold it to a publisher, or they sold it to a movie production company. Then how do the people who contributed their stories, how do they fit into this? They were saying, because there was a Discord, it has now been deleted or privated or whatever, that they invited people to, and people were asking questions about copyright, and they were like, well, in America, if you write it, it's yours. I don't know a lot about copyright law, but that just seems too simple, and I don't think it works. Again, people were bringing up that their main audience are teens, and you have to be 18 to purchase an NFT. I guess someone brought up like some kind of collective that might work. Then people brought up the environmental issues. Out of all these authors, it seemed like Marie Lu was maybe the leader and was the one clapping back kind of at people and making snarky comments before apologizing. Because by the time I found out about this, they all had made like Instagram post, and then by the time I found about it, it had all been deleted. So like they shut it down quick. But Marie Lu said like they were going to be using a different kind of NFT platform called like Sonala or something that had a lesser environmental impact. And I guess she made some snarky comments to people. I don't know if this was on Instagram or on Reddit, that, you know, well, you could drive less if you're so worried about the environment. Like Maria doesn't worry like that, but a mess. That is the very basic. Like I said, it's shut down quick. They closed the Discord. They deleted their posts. It's not happening anymore because there was such, like, it was like a huge backlash on Twitter because of all of the questions, all of the things that aren't clear. Like, you have a young audiences, even if they are 18, most people don't even understand NFTs. So a lot of people may sign up and really not understand what they're getting into. Maybe they're paying, maybe it's not a lot of money, but they're writing you a story and then you have copyright over it and they don't get ownership of that anymore. Like, just a lot of questions, a lot of shady gray areas where there wasn't a lot of clarification. And to me, my question was like, if they shut it down so quickly, did they think it was shady and they were like, but let's try it anyway? Or because Mara did a live discussing this, I'll link it below, was it something that they put out there and then somebody made a comment and they're like, ooh, yeah, maybe we didn't think about this, maybe this is bad, and then pull the plug? Either way, it sounds like yikes on bikes. The tweets are truly the best part of this whole situation. Like, some of them are a very large expanse of cryptocurrency. Miss Peregrine's home for peculiar MLMs. Frankly, in exploitation. And they both get scammed at the end. Like, these, so good. There are some threads that try to kind of explain what was happening. I will have some of those linked down below. I'm trying to find them in my threads right now because I have so many. But some people were doing a better job at explaining this to me. Okay. So one thread was, today I found out a large group of YA authors, Marie Lu and 5 other popular names, have decided to run an NFT-based collaborative story supposedly run by the readers in order to build a community or whatnot. This is BS. What these authors are doing, mind you, many authors who have written dystopic stories before, ironically, is bad. It is horrible beyond belief. NFTs harm the environment and are a lucrative cash grab, especially when it comes to teens who may not know any better. Now, what are NFTs? Especially the TLDR is that when an artwork of any kind are bought for private use, they are digital receipts given proving ownership, except these receipts take so much work to do by computers that carbon emissions skyrocket when they are produced, as the cryptocurrencies used to buy and sell them are processed. And this type of harmful ownership has now bled into the arts. This isn't about building a community. This is a pure and unfettered exploration. I think they meant exploitation by a higher class, and I'm angered beyond belief. A lot of people are talking about how, like, you know, when you're a teen, especially a reader, and how you may idolize your authors, or how, you know, serious you take that author-reader relationship, and you may think this is a really great idea and opportunity, and how many teens would be really into this idea and like wanting to write fan fiction. I'm sure like people already do that for free. And that was another commentary, that fan fiction is supposed to be free, but how many would be willing to jump into this and think like, yeah, I'm basically writing a story with one of my favorite authors. There's just a lot of issues with this. I would assume they talked about it, talked to a lawyer or something beforehand, maybe not, but it just seems like a lot more negative than positive. And so luckily, like I said, it's done, but it just was very questionable, and I'm sure now people have a different opinion of those authors. And like people mentioned, it was, you know, ironic that some of them had written like dystopian novels and now are kind of being involved in this kind of futuristic scam-like thing. So that, of course, I have to include a Courtney Milan tweet, or is this Book CommuniTEA? And she said, okay, now having seen a bunch of Discord messages about that specific NFT thing, I can safely say my impression is that nobody seems to have consulted an actual copyright lawyer to whom copyright vests when a creator fixes a copy in a digital media. People are asking who is going to own submitted content over and over, and they were just making shit up about the law. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if someone gives you a license to make a derivative work based on their original work, you do in fact own a copyright in that work. The reason it doesn't generally turn out that way is that generally the person licensing the work has a very airtight contract with you, the individual that changes that operation. It doesn't just happen by magic, it happens because lawyers. So, I mean, I guess they would own it, but yeah, mess. I hope that helped. I will have some of those threads that I mentioned linked down below, and this article that kind of gives a nice little summary about it, and you can see some of the screenshots because some of them were really hilarious, but insert clown emoji because yikes. That's gonna round out October shenanigans. Of course, that's not everything, but it really was a month. Are the authors okay? And I really don't know. I really need them to drink some water, and I don't know, take a moment. They maybe need to woo-saw, go to the spa, reevaluate something. But that is it for me. Thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Think about subscribing. So, Nigel, should we thank our patrons? Should we thank our patrons who keep buying toys that you destroy? Say thank you to your besties, babies, besties. Kayla, Jamie, Rainer, Danielle, Katie, Bobby, Jen, Kristen, Leo, Kate, Terry, Emily, Jessie, Janine, Sarah, Pepper, Shannon, Kirsten, Elizaveta, Amber, Celine, Heidi, Maria, and Serena, and the Nigel Lavandria Stans, right? Brianna, Katrina, Maya, Rosie, Ava, Claire, Carrie, Tyriel, Demery, and Rainy. Also shout out to friends of Bebe and Bebe's admirers. Nigel, say thank you. We thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who watches and supports the channel. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Check down below. I have the articles that I mentioned and videos I mentioned. Also ways to support my channel, any other interesting information, my social media if you care to follow Nigel or myself. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreened, and we'll see you in our next one. Bye. Nigel, I want to sing you a little song. I haven't sang you a song in a while. Let me sing to you. From this moment, life has begun. From this moment, you are the one. Right beside you is where I belong. From this moment on, from this moment, I have been blessed. I care only for your happiness. And for your love, I'd give my last breath. From this moment on, I give my hand to you with all my heart. I can't wait to live my life with you. I can't wait to start. You and I will never be apart. My dreams